Okay, let's try to unpack this, because we are diving into a crisis point that feels absolutely surreal.
To put it mildly.
Right. We're doing a deep dive into the wreckage of the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs season. For you listening, this isn't just about a team missing the playoffs.
No, not at all.
Our mission here is to really extract the brutal reality from a collapse that, it immediately poses this existential threat to one of the most dominant dynasties we've seen in decades.
And that's the key word, right? Existential. What's so fascinating here is just how quickly that certainty, that inevitability we all felt, just dissolved into chaos.
Yeah.
We're looking at a brutal double whammy.
Yeah.
A catastrophic Week 15 loss,
Yeah.
followed almost immediately by personnel news that just shattered the entire foundation. This wasn't a slow burn.
No.
This was an explosion. We're talking about 7 consecutive AFC West titles. Gone. 7 straight AFC Championship game appearances. That's history now.
And that's the distinction we have to make. This is so much more than just a bad season. It's a full-blown cultural interruption. So let's start with the cold, hard numbers that sealed it.
The game itself.
The game itself. It wasn't even a blowout, which is almost worse. It was this grinding, low-scoring divisional fight against the Chargers.
And they lost 16-13.
16-13. That score puts them at a, frankly, shocking 6-8 record. Playoff elimination is guaranteed. And for Patrick Mahomes personally, his own streak of never, ever missing the playoffs as a starter is officially over.
And you have to connect that to the history, the context.
Yeah.
Think about Arrowhead Stadium since 2018. They have been the center of the AFC universe.
It's questionable. 3
Super Bowls in that span, LBI. The road to the Super Bowl always ran through Kansas City. And to go from that level of dominance to 6-8, it's a fall from grace that is just breathtaking.
It really is. And it sets the stage perfectly in a tragic way for the personnel catastrophe that followed. The real seismic shockwave came in the fourth quarter of that game.
Yeah. The injury.
The moment Patrick Mahomes goes down, he's tackled from behind by Deshaun Hand, and you just knew. The visual of him hobbling off the field, not being able to put any weight on it.
It was a metaphor for the entire season collapsing in one moment.
Exactly. And the metaphor quickly became this brutal clinical reality. The team confirmed the absolute worst-case scenario, torn ACL.
And that just sidelines him for the rest of this lost year, obviously.
Yeah.
But the real implications are so much bigger.
So much bigger. This is where the truly uncomfortable questions start for the franchise, right?
Absolutely. Because the logistical reality is just unavoidable. In ACL reconstruction, you're looking at, an 8 to 12-month recovery? And that's just to get back on the field.
That's not to get back to being Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly. So the guy with the $500 million contract, the, quote, engine of the entire Chiefs operation, could very, very realistically miss the start of the 2026 season. Maybe a lot more.
And that is a seismic shift, because Andy Reid's system, it isn't just a system he runs. The whole thing is built around his creativity, his ability to improvise.
His magic.
Yeah.
You lose that centerpiece. You don't just lose a player. You lose your entire operating system. It creates this immense, unprecedented uncertainty.
Okay, so if the operating system is down, if the engine is out for the count, what does that mean for the co-star?
The ultimate question.
The ultimate question that has completely dominated the conversation since the second that diagnosis was confirmed. What is the fate of Travis Kelce?
Yeah, and Adam Schefter didn't mince words, did he? He came right out and said Kelce's future is, quote, very much up in the air.
Which pivoted the entire conversation. It went from Mahomes' knee to Kelce's retirement in a heartbeat.
Well, you have to understand why. Kelce's 36. He's in his 13th season. We know for a fact he was already seriously thinking about retiring after the last championship game loss.
Right. He came back for one reason.
For one more ring with Mahomes and Reid. And now that entire incentive structure is it's gone. It's completely destroyed.
So let's look at his performance this year through that Week 15 game. 67 catches, almost 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. For a normal tight end, that's a great year.
It's respectable, for sure. But for him, it's the numbers that aren't there that tell the story. His streak of 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Over.
Okay, but I want to push on that a little. Is that really a decline in his play, or is it just a symptom of the rest of the team failing around him? Almost 800 yards is still phenomenal at his age.
It's a fair question, but this is where the deeper analytics come in. It's not just the total yards, it's the reduced yards after the catch, the YAC.
Ah, okay. Wait, so is that about his pure speed, or is it defenses just bracketing him better, knowing he's the only real threat?
It's probably a bit of both, but that YAC drop is the physical canary in the coal mine. It suggests that signature burst, that ability to shed a tackle and turn a 5-yard out into a 20-yard gain, it's just starting to wane.
The wear and tear is finally catching up.
It is, and it's being matched by this emotional toll, which, to his credit, he was incredibly open about on his podcast.
That quote was stunning.
It was. I feel like I've always had answers in years past, and this year I just can't find them. I mean, for a competitor like him to admit that, it signals a profound level of exhaustion.
And then you have to layer in all the off-field realities. You know, his high-profile relationship, the talk of a potential 2026 wedding. Those aren't just little footnotes.
No, they represent a real future, a life after football that's right there for him.
So retirement, in this new context, becomes this very clean, very logical off-ramp for him. He has nothing left to prove. He's got all the records. Why put his 36-year-old body through another punishing season?
Knowing his MVP quarterback might not even be on the field for most of it.
Exactly. It's a huge decision. So this sounds like you said, a perfect storm of failure, injury, and uncertainty. Which brings us to how this all even happened. How did the 2025 collapse actually unfold?
Right. We need to look at the anatomy of this dynasty interruption.
The sources point to a few really critical systemic issues. First, and tragically, the offensive line. It struggled all year, and we now see the ultimate consequence of that.
It led directly to the Mahomes injury.
Directly. Second, the receiving core. It was a problem they never solved, a recurring weakness that finally, fatally caught up to them.
And third, the defense. It had been the unit bailing them out for a couple of years, but this season, they had critical lapses in huge games against the Raiders and then, of course, against the Chargers.
Let's stick at that receiving core for a second. I mean, the gamble from Brett Veach was basically that Mahomes could elevate anyone.
That was the gamble. He went with mid-round picks, cheaper free agents, and it just didn't pay off. They never got that true number one threat to stretch the field.
Which just put more and more pressure on Kelce week after week.
And on Mahomes. It let defenses just tighten up, increase the pressure, which, ironically, is what puts him at a higher physical risk because he has to scramble and extend plays for so long.
And this is where that emotional fallout from the fans and the cold, hard financial reality really start to intersect. You pulled those representative voices from the source material. Let's start with Red and Gold Rita.
Yeah, she represents that emotional devastation, the fear that the magic, that aura of invincibility is just gone.
The shock of going from Super Bowl favorites to suddenly watching the draft board overnight, it's a huge psychological blow.
The fear is real. If Kelce leaves and Mahomes is on the sideline, the dynasty isn't just paused. It faces a true identity crisis. Who even are the Chiefs at that point?
And then you pivot to the harsh reality check from two-time Tony, the analyst who just called it a crisis, not a slump.
Right. And he points to the tough questions the front office has to answer right now. First off, Coach Andy Reid is 67 years old.
Not exactly a guy you associate with long rebuilding projects.
No. Does he really want to stick around for a year where his $500 million quarterback is watching from the sideline? The pressure on him is immense.
And Tony's concerns went even further, right? He brought up Chris Jones.
The other superstar. Jones is nearing the end of his deal. He has to be looking at this situation, at the cap, at the injury, and wondering about his own future with a team that might be heading into a full-on transition.
Which brings us to the final reality check, the salary cap. They're projected to be way over the cap in 2026.
Way over. So all that contract restructuring they were hoping to put off, it now becomes painful, urgent reality. It could mean cutting reliable veteran players just to create space.
And this all sets up what has to be the most pivotal offseason for this organization in more than a decade.
Since Reid and Alex Smith arrived, easily.
Yeah.
And the number one priority above everything else is the quarterback plan.
They absolutely cannot rush Mahomes back.
Cannot. The long-term health of their franchise cornerstone has to be the only thing that matters. That means planning right now for a veteran bridge quarterback to lead the team in 2026. Someone like a Gardner Minshew.
You sacrifice wins next year to protect the next decade.
You have to. But this terrible collapse, it does have one sort of silver lining, though it's certainly cold comfort.
The draft pick.
A rare high draft pick, possibly top 15, and the pressure on Brett Veach to nail this pick while navigating that cap hell. It's enormous.
So what's the move? Given the failures, it has to be a dominant plug-and-play offensive lineman, right? To make sure this never happens again.
That's one argument. The other is you have to get a difference-making receiver.
Right.
Someone to revitalize the offense so that when Mahomes does return, he comes back to an upgraded, more dangerous support system.
And the weight of that decision is just magnified by the Kelce question.
Exponentially. Because if he does retire, Mahomes loses his security blanket, the Chiefs lose arguably the greatest tight end in history, and suddenly a guy like Noah Gray has to go from being a complementary piece to a primary weapon.
A role he might just not be ready for.
Right. So the decisions on Kelce and that draft pick, they will determine if this is just a painful setback or if it's the permanent end of the dynastic window.
The high-flying show is officially closed for the season, so what's left? 3 games. Tight ends, Broncos on Christmas, and the Raiders, they're playing for nothing but pride.
But those games do matter. They have to set a competitive tone for what will be a brutal offseason. They need to show everyone this is not a program in complete disarray.
It's a test of that champion culture Reid has built.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we already know Mahomes is vowing to come back stronger, tougher, faster. But the question that will really define the immediate future, the one that ties back to the emotional core of this whole story, it's all about Travis Kelce.
It all comes back to him.
It does.